Inflation is not one number. It is a family of measurements built for different questions. Two of the most watched United States measures are the Consumer Price Index, produced by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, produced by the Bureau of Economic Analysis. They often move in the same direction, but they do not have to match. This guide explains why. It is finance education, not financial advice. It makes no personalized recommendation, contains no live trade or forecast, and promises no result. Hypothetical examples are labeled. The narration is an artificial heart voice, and every visual is original synthetic motion graphics. Chapter 1, start with the question. An inflation index compares the cost of a broad set of goods and services across time. It is not a literal invoice for every household. A national average can rise while your own spending changes by more or less. The useful question is not, which index is real? Both are official measures. Ask instead, whose purchases are represented, which transactions enter the calculation, how spending categories are weighted, and what period-to-period comparison is being shown. The CPI measures average price change experienced by urban consumers. BLS organizes consumer spending into detailed item and geographic cells, collects prices from sampled outlets and housing units, adjusts for product changes, and aggregates those observations with expenditure weights. CPIU covers all urban consumers and is the broad measure most often reported in news. CPIW uses a narrower population of urban wage earners and clerical workers. The chained CPI, called CCPIU, uses a formula designed to reflect substitution across categories more quickly. These are related indexes, not interchangeable labels. Chapter 2, build a tiny hypothetical basket. Imagine a simplified monthly budget with $40 for food, $30 for housing services, $20 for transportation, and $10 for recreation. If prices in those categories rise by different percentages, the basket's total change depends on the weights. A category with a 40% weight influences the result 4 times as much as a category with a 10% weight, all else equal. Real CPI calculations are far more detailed. The example only shows the governing arithmetic: price relatives multiplied by expenditure importance, then combined. Weights are a major reason inflation measures can diverge. CPI weights are tied to consumer expenditure information for the populations the index represents. PCE weights come from the national accounts and reflect a broader map of consumer spending. PCE includes purchases made directly by households and some goods and services purchased on their behalf. That distinction matters for categories such as healthcare, where an employer or government program may pay part of the bill. The two systems can therefore assign different importance to the same category even when they observe similar prices. Chapter 3, understand scope. CPI is designed around out-of-pocket consumer experience for its target urban populations. PCE is embedded in the national income and product accounts and aims to cover a wide range of goods and services consumed by people in the United States. BEA says the PCE price index captures changing consumer behavior and a broad range of expenses. Neither scope is automatically better. CPI is especially useful for many cost-of-living adjustments and consumer-facing comparisons. PCE is especially useful for economy-wide consumption analysis and is the inflation measure named in the Federal Reserve's longer-run 2% goal. Formula choices also matter. Most CPI basic item indexes use geometric means, while upper-level CPIU aggregation uses expenditure weights in a modified last year's framework. The chained CPI uses a superlative formula with more current spending information, but its recent values can be revised as final data arrive. PCE uses chain-type price indexes inside the national accounts. In plain language, a chain index links together adjacent periods and allows the spending pattern to evolve. That makes substitution visible sooner, but it also means revisions are part of the design rather than evidence that the earlier estimate was careless. Chapter 4, separate headline from core. Headline CPI and headline PCE include food and energy. Core versions exclude specified food and energy categories because those prices can be volatile. Core does not mean groceries and gasoline do not matter. It is a second lens for studying underlying movement. A clean reading labels the exact series: CPIU all items less food and energy, PCE price index, or PCE excluding food and energy. Saying only inflation can hide a large measurement choice. Now separate an index level from a rate of change. An index level is a reference number relative to a base. A monthly rate compares 1 month with the previous month. A 12-month rate compares a month with the same month 1 year earlier. A seasonally adjusted monthly figure attempts to remove recurring calendar patterns. A not seasonally adjusted 12-month figure preserves the published price level comparison. These can tell different stories at the same time without contradiction. Always read the period, adjustment, and series name before interpreting the percentage. Chapter 5, quality change and replacement. Price measurement is not as simple as checking whether a phone costs more than last year. The new phone may have more storage, a different processor, or a different service bundle. BLS uses documented quality adjustment and item replacement methods to estimate constant quality price change when products change. PCE relies on component price indexes and national account source data, many of which draw on BLS programs. Quality adjustment does not erase a price increase. It tries to avoid calling an improvement in the product itself pure inflation. Housing is another source of confusion. CPI shelter includes rent of primary residence and owner's equivalent rent, an estimate of the rental value of owner-occupied housing services. A home purchase is not treated like buying groceries because the structure is also a long-lived asset. PCE housing services use national account concepts and source data. If shelter has a different weight across the two indexes, the same rent movement can create a different contribution to total inflation. That is a weighting effect, not a secret second rent market. Chapter 6. Read a release without overreacting. First, name the agency and exact series. Second, identify monthly or 12-month change. Third, check seasonal adjustment. Fourth, compare headline and core without pretending either is the whole story. Fifth, look at category contributions rather than one dramatic item. Sixth, note revisions and methodology notices. 1 month can be noisy. A trend is a sequence, not a single bar. No official release can tell you what to buy, sell, or expect next. Use current primary sources. For CPI definitions, populations, collection, formulas, quality methods, and release notes, start with BLS. For PCE scope, chain indexes, national account methods, and data revisions, start with BEA. For the policy target, read the Federal Reserve's current longer-run strategy statement and monetary policy report. This package verified those official pages on July 28, 2026. It does not quote a market price, investment return, or prediction. Here is the durable comparison. CPI asks about price change for the consumer populations and market basket defined by BLS. PCE asks about prices across the broader consumption framework in the national accounts. Their scope, weights, formulas, revision patterns, and institutional uses differ. If the numbers separate, inspect those 5 layers before claiming one must be wrong. Label the series, period, adjustment, and source. Then use the measure that fits the question.